Hi, it's the M.L.M for the Soul channel. I do have a new topic for today. Before I begin, I'd just like to say, may the words and expressions of my mouth and the thoughts and meditations of my heart find favor and acceptance before you, Hashem. And some people I thank have inspired me. I hope they can inspire you as well. And I will have links below to their websites. They are Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, Rabbi Eli Mansour, Rabbi Elon Anava, Rabbi Yuval Ovadia, Rabbi Daniel Asser, Rabbi Michael Skobach, Jews for Judaism, Rabbi David Usher, Rabbi Roni Rain, and Rabbi Yosef Chesney. So if you've never checked out this channel before, I will have a link below to my first video, which explains what M.L.M for the Soul means, what it stands for, what I'm doing. So again, I'm continuing to use, for right now, this wonderful Sefer called Lilmod U'LiLamed by Rabbi Mordechai Katz. And again, I will post below the name of the book again and the author in case you want to go get it yourself. And it's just different insights on the parasha that I've been reading this for years weekly, and I keep rereading it because we're always learning, and you can always learn something new. So this is on the upcoming Parashat Vayeshev, and I call this Seeing Hashem's Supervision in Everything. So this is a little bit long. It's not too long, but a little bit longer than maybe some of my other videos. But I think it's very interesting, and it's always poignant, and it's always pertinent to our times. It's timeless information. So whatever happens in this world is planned and controlled by Hashem. Some may occasionally question the statement. If Hashem controls everything, they ask, how can certain unfortunate things happen? What is the reason for this? Often we may not be able to perceive the reason behind certain events. However, this does not mean that there is no explanation. What we lack is the ability to see events in total perspective from the vantage point of hindsight. What might seem tragic today might prove to be wonderful tomorrow. Life is like a puzzle with all the pieces scattered about, and we seem unable to fit them together into a logical form. However, Hashem designed the puzzle, and it is He who will eventually link together all the pieces into a perfectly comprehensible whole. The truth of this can be seen from the story of Yosef. Of course, most people know the story, but I'll just kind of go through it, so just part of this information here. So the events of Yosef's early life probably seemed very tragic at the time they occurred. He was his father's favorite son, and yet he was thrown into a pit by his jealous brothers, seemingly doomed to die. The brothers then moved away from the pit so as not to hear Yosef's cry for mercy. Then, in apparent coincidence, which we don't believe in, but it's just apparent, that's why it says that, they noticed a caravan of travelers, which, quote, just happened, again it's in quotes and that's for a reason, to be passing by. The traveling merchants removed Yosef from the pit and, quote, again, it just happened, to take him to Egypt, or Mitzrayim, whatever you want to call it. There, instead of becoming a menial slave toiling in the fields, he, quote, again, just happened, to be sold to an important member of Egyptian society. Then again, Yosef's fate seemed to take a downward turn when he was unjustly thrown into jail. At this point, an observer might have thought that Yosef was being punished for no obvious reason. However, it was in jail that Yosef again, quote, just happened to meet and interpret the dreams of the butler and the baker. This eventually led to his becoming second in command to Pharaoh, which in turn led to the immigration of all of Bnei Israel to Egypt. It was in Egypt that Yosef was able to support his family and keep Bnei Israel alive even during the terrible hunger. So what seemed to be a series of unreasonable hardships for Yosef finally resulted in the sustainment of the Jewish nation. Hashem's divine hand had been in, quote, divine hand, because I'm adding in quote hand, because of course Hashem has no hand. It's just kind of for us to understand. Has been in command of the situation throughout his divine plan, finally becoming clear in retrospect. And that's from Bereshit Rabbah 85:1. So there's a story of Rabbi Yitzchak. He was an individual who had learned that every event that takes place has a reason behind it, however vague at the moment. And I don't know who this Rabbi Yitzchak was, but I think this is from Midrash Rabbah, so yeah, if you go find it there. So Rabbi Yitzchak was once strolling on the cliff near the city of Kasria. I don't know where that is. So he noticed something rolling towards him. He drew closer. He observed that it was a bone. This is dangerous, he thought to himself. Someone might not notice the bone lying there and might trip over it and fall off the cliff. Consequently, because he was strolling on the cliff, consequently he took the bone and buried it in the nearby earth. However, the bone would not stay put. The earth seemed to open up and the bone once again began rolling toward him. Once again, Rabbi Yitzchak took the bone and placed it in the earth. Then the same thing happened for a third time. Rabbi Yitzchak began reconsidering. If this bone keeps rolling back, There must be some divine reason for it. I had better just leave it as it is instead of trying to fight fate. So a few days later, Reb Yitzchak learned that a government courier had come to the same spot he had traveled on and had tripped over the bone and fallen over the cliff to his death. Some Jews who found the courier's body found that he had been carrying documents urging punishment for the Jews. The documents disappeared and the punishments were not carried out. Reb Yitzchak smiled to himself. I have now seen the hand of Hashem at work. Again, hand is, just a parable. It's not actual. So that's from Medrash Rabbah. So because Hashem controls all earthly occurrences, it is therefore a good idea for men to realize that all that occurs is Hashem's will. Even the occurrences which may seem bitter and detrimental are actually beneficial in the long run. For otherwise, why would Hashem cause them to transpire? One who made a special practice of doing so was Nachum ish Gamzu. You might have heard about him. So Gamzu means this too. And Nachum was thus named because of his tendency to say after every setback, Gamzu Latova, this too is for the good. One time the Jewish community decided to send a gift to the Caesar. But who should represent the Jewish people with this tribute to the Caesar? Nachum ish Gamzu was the right person. It was decided, for miracles were constantly occurring around him. So Nachum set out on his journey carrying a large chest filled with precious stones to be offered to the Caesar. On the way, he stopped at an inn to spend the night. In the middle of the night, the greedy innkeepers arose, emptied the chest of its precious contents, and filled it with sand. Not realizing what had happened, Nachum woke up the next morning and made his way to the Caesar. He presented the chest in the name of the entire Jewish community. The Caesar was appreciative of the precious gift and approached the chest to open it. But when he opened it, lo and behold, it contained sand. The Caesar was furious. He started making plans to wipe out all the Jews in his kingdom. But Nachum was not overwhelmed. His bitachon, which is his trust, in Hashem was firm, and he pronounced fervently those familiar and meaningful words, Gam Zo Litova, or Gam Zo, here it says. So Eliyahu HaNavi, the prophet, was sent to help Nachum and the Jews. He appeared as one of the king's soldiers and told the king, maybe this is from the sand of the Jews' ancestor Avraham. When Avraham threw sand at his enemies, the sand turned into swords. There was one province which the Caesar could not conquer. He decided to test out the sand on this province. He tested and it worked. He conquered that province thanks to the miraculous sand. The Caesar took the same chest and filled it with gold and precious stones as a present to the Jews. He sent off Nachum with much honor and fanfare. Nachum returned to the same inn. When the innkeepers saw the great honors bestowed upon Nachum by the Caesar, they were bewildered. They approached Nachum and asked, what exactly did you bring to the Caesar that you received such honors? Whatever I took from this inn, I brought to the Caesar, replied Nachum. Upon hearing this, the innkeepers quickly gathered together sand from their inn and brought it to the Caesar. The Caesar tested their sand also, but to no avail. It was just plain sand. The Caesar had the innkeepers put to death. That's from Tanis 21a. So Nachum's faith in Hashem had eventually proved correct. Gamzo litova. So that's important for us to remember that it's all it's all Hashem's supervision. Everything that happens, nothing is outside of it. And that's something to always keep in mind. And I hope and pray that we all merit to live and see the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days and rebuilding of our final everlasting Beit HaMikdash. Amen. And thanks for watching.